Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed.
What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. Okay, so for the last 24 hours, I have been dealing with people who hate me because I was going to have Chris Guy on the show. And I was like, you know what, that's fine, it's par for the course, I'll take it, doesn't matter. And then at 1 minute to 9, here, let me actually go get the text because I think it's worth showing you guys the ridiculousness that is Chris Guy. So here I am setting up the show, waiting for him to come on, and we get this text exchange. I'm going to turn this off because I don't really care. Okay, so he's like, sorry, just not in the mood to talk to anyone right now. Note the time, 8:59. The show starts at 9. So I'm like, 1 minute before we go live? Dude, he's like, I was sleeping and just woke up. Sorry, not tonight. I'm like, 9:30? It's not a time thing. Just not in the mood to talk to anybody. And I'm like, can you push through so we don't have dead air? Bro, I'm not in the mood to talk to anybody right now. And then I just kind of kept going. What did I say? He's like, bro, I'm not in the mood to talk to anybody right now. I'm like, right, okay, thanks for the 1 minute warning. And he's like, you're welcome. Your welcome had 5 typos. And I'm not really want to talk texting with Ashley. And I typoed the word O-H, and then I typoed the word app. I wrote Z instead. So, being that, I didn't want to not have a doubleheader, and being that Chris Guy is just one of those dudes where content seems to, flow out of his ridiculousness, I have decided I just had to change the title. I had Blackballed welcomes Chris Guy to the show. Now I have Blackballed welcomes people who hate stream is now having issues. They're freezing. Oh, no, there I am. I'm good. So here to help us hate Chris Guy, and I'm using that term, I guess, literally. Now I am. See, I hate him more for canceling than I did for any of the shit he did before that. I just find it really offensive when people cancel 1 minute before the show because they still got boo in their eyes and you're sleepy. It just doesn't make any sense. But here to help us, dismantle Chris Guy's soul and character. Not that it needs much help. From the Eager Beaver podcast, Paul Atkinson. Paul, how you doing, buddy?
I'm pretty good. Yourself, brother?
I'm all right. I'm a little annoyed.
Yeah.
It's funny when you have a guy like Chris Guy that's supposed to be on your show, you go and he cancels 1 minute before the show. You're angry, and then almost relieved.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword, right? It's
I didn't think the interview was going to go bad. I mean, listen, there was some pushback that I had today from people that I know and like. And
I saw.
And there's, and some people that push back I don't like, so I don't really care what they say. But, it was one of those things where it was like, I had to do it because that's who I am, right? That's,
right, yeah.
I'll talk to anybody. Hopefully I give them enough rope or whatever. Hopefully I handle it so that I look professional and they look like the idiot that they are. But there was, the Holocaust denying aspect of this person struck a nerve with a couple people that I know and love very much. And there was actually a moment today where I said to one person, if this hurts you as much as I feel like it feels like it might, I will cancel the show. I won't do the show because I don't want you to think that I'm trying to hurt you because I'm not.
Right.
And to this person's credit, they were like, no, do the show, because if he doesn't do your show, he's going to do another show, and that person's going to hand him one softball after another. So I was like, okay. You wouldn't have him on your show, though, right?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I really, I don't think so because you got to remember our show is a tag team duo collaborative, and I tend to run a little hot under the collar, whereas my partner, my collaborative brother in arms, is capable of remaining calm in the middle of a storm, whereas I would probably become a raging a-hole. And I'm not ashamed of that. It's part of who I am. I'm passionate, and
That's
when
how
I
we got that's how we got to know you.
well, yeah. It like literally no word of lie. It's how you got to know me. Now, would I rant and rave? Yeah, probably I would. Yeah, I probably would. Yeah,
Would you?
yeah, probably. But I'd you know what? I think I would if he was to be a guest on our show. I think I would probably sit back a little bit and let Mr. Beaver, Douglas, take the reins of it, right? Because he could steer the show, and I would jump in and rage every now and then.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't know how much time this person has, so we're gonna just really jump right in. And Spenny, how are you, buddy?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. I don't know if you heard any of that stuff at the beginning.
No,
But
I just sorry, I was watching the hockey game.
so I was saying I'm just gonna say it because I don't think you would mind. But I was saying that there was one or two people that I spoke with today that I really care about and that were wondering whether or not this show was a good idea. You were one of them, but to your credit, at the end of our conversation, you were like, because I asked you to come on at the end of the show, and you were like, "No, I don't think
No, I can I just stop you there?
please, yeah,
I had no problem with you having him on. I just didn't want to be on.
okay,
That was all it was. Dean, God bless him. Um, as I told you on the phone, I should have called you, but for some reason I called Dean. I just asked him if he'd ever had this guy on. And anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's okay." And we were just talking about how like this was the first time. And it was actually my conversation with you. Even when I got off the phone, like I knew that I had your blessing. I asked for your blessing because the Holocaust denial thing I didn't know about until today. I don't know how I missed that. But it's not like I do Chris Sky deep dives. To be
But I
honest
only
with you,
I only
yeah,
found out about it because someone made a comment on your.
yeah, that's how I found
That's
it.
how I knew.
I
And
didn't
then
know either. I didn't know.
And so and I don't like the term platforming, so I don't really like that. But
I don't care.
sometimes I have to maybe you didn't feel like this, but I know other people did. Sometimes maybe I should like put myself in the position, even though I don't necessarily believe I would change my mind. Like I would interview Kim Jong Il, you know, because and even he's a mass murderer. Okay, so he's clearly a worse person than Chris Sky, and I would interview him, and I don't think that that's a bad thing.
No, hey man, first of all, this is what you do. It's not what I do. So I'm supposed to be a comedian, and this particular thing, which we can get into, why it upsets me so much. It's pretty obvious to me.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely have no problem with you doing it. In fact, back in the day when Geraldo used to have on the neo Nazis and the KKK, I had a lot of people saying that it was a bad thing, and I thought it was great to let them go on and hang themselves or whatever they do. No, it got a bit confused. I never should have involved Dean with it. I didn't think properly, but I have such a visceral reaction to Holocaust denial in particular. Vaccines couldn't give a shit. I mean, there's so much bullshit out there. It just I know that I would actually have if I was face to face with him on this show. If you can be face to face on a podcast, I'd lose it. I'd
Yeah.
fucking lose it, and it wouldn't be entertaining. It would just be sad and pathetic.
I get it, brother. I would be right there by your side, screaming in his fucking horse face about how much of a human pile of garbage he is.
Now,
I wouldn't hold back.
One sec, Paulie. First of all, it says I have no idea. You could have asked him if he was on, and if he was a Holocaust denier, maybe he'd say, "Oh, I was, but no, I'm not anymore." You know what I mean? Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever. It seems like everything I read is bullshit on online. So I don't even know if that's true. And I was going to tune in to see what he said or watch the recorded version another time. But anyways,
Yeah. One of the comments that he made, this is from 8 years ago, I guess. Over 30 million people were killed in World War II. Some of them were Jewish. Some of them.
Fuck.
It's like 20% of them, but okay. Most of them were Catholic. I don't know about that. Nice try. 6 million Jews murdered is the biggest lie ever created in the history of fake Jew history. They used 6 million number to support their own biblical prophecy. There were barely 11 million Jews in the entire world at the time. It's pretty pathetic to try and say Hitler got half of them. I look at a comment like that and I'm just like, what?
Exactly.
I don't even, like, and
You
by
can
the way,
quibble, you can
yeah.
quibble about, the amounts, but, the reality is the Nazis documented everything they
Yeah.
did.
Brilliantly.
So,
Like all of it.
film, and there's got to be something behind it because it's just such a, it's the Jews have been persecuted and have been scapegoated throughout history. This is no different.
Mm-hmm.
This is no different. Who cares if it was 2 million or 1 million? What's the difference?
I've seen Iranian cartoon propaganda things about how, the gas chambers weren't big enough to kill 6 million Jews over a period of and all that kind of stuff. And so this stuff isn't new to me. Like listening to people like talk about that stuff.
Ernst Sundell, remember him?
You know what I think like gets people like makes people confused and probably susceptible to believing really ridiculous shit is that I think if you were going to take a demographic, if you're going to take a people who have been oppressed like black people and Jews and indigenous and all this kind of stuff, I guess Jewish people have this weird juxtaposition of being not only really oppressed but also really educated and successful. And there's not very many groups that can say that they hold both of those things at the same time.
That's because Jews are invisible. That was a big problem Hitler had, was identifying who was Jewish amongst. So the SS had this, I don't remember exactly what it was, ways to decipher who was Jewish and who wasn't Jewish, because the physical features thing was a bit a misnomer and not necessarily true. And the Nazis knew that. Just why is he even? These are people with these age-old grievances. Jews have been successful for one reason only. We care about education. You know what I mean? And that's there's nothing to be ashamed of there. It's quite remarkable. And by the way, we're invisible, right? And so it's easier for us to blend in. But anyways, anybody can talk about anything they want, James. I was looking forward to seeing what you were going to say to him and how he'd react to it.
Yeah, me too. But now I don't give a fuck anymore. I need
What happened?
We'll pile on.
And quickly tell me what happened. He just canceled?
Yeah, you look at the time code. I'm sorry, I'm just not in the mood to talk to anybody right now. 8:59. 1 minute.
Like fuck me,
like,
really?
And I hope his number's up there. Oh, it's not up there. Okay, anyways, I don't want to. I'm not going to.
Doesn't he have some court? I was reading Karima's commentary on his trial. Isn't that going on now?
Yeah, it's like day 5, I think, or something.
And
I don't know.
She's
what
saying
happened.
he's going to get off. So I don't know. Maybe he's nervous about that. I don't know the guy at all, really, to be honest with you.
No, neither do I. I just want to get back to something though, because I remember after 9/11 happened. So I was raised Catholic. My first in-person kind of cringy moment of anti-Semitism was when a nun came into our classroom and I asked, where do non-Catholics go when they die? And she used Jewish people as an example and said, quote unquote, oh, like the Jews to hell. Jews go to hell. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, lady. Like,
Actually, not really.
You get reprimanded for saying Jesus Christ?
No, well, probably. But I used to lie in confession and then confess that I lied in the last confession. That was what I did. That was my favorite move. But then when 9/11 happened, do you remember this one? Oh, there was hardly any Jewish people killed in the World Trade Center because they all were tipped off that the planes were going to fly in there, and they all stayed home that day.
Yeah.
I was like,
fuck.
what?
Here were the first theory that I heard that the Jews were behind it was that it was a government because the Zog, Zionist,
Yeah.
that they wanted to spy on people, so they brought down the towers. They also claim that it might be
the dancing Israelis. Remember that
Yeah.
That the Jews owned the towers.
Uh-huh.
So
one guy owned it.
Insurance benefit.
One
which is
guy.
insane.
Well, one guy owned it, and he probably did do something. Well, he actually tried to do something crooked. His name was Larry Silverstein, I think his name was, and he tried to say because I think he got $1 billion for each terrorist attack, and so he wanted to say that it was 2 terrorist attacks and not 1.
Right.
So he tried to get an extra $1 billion. But I mean, like that. First of all, that's one guy. I don't even know. Maybe he's a good guy for all I know. And then they have that clip of him saying that he was in contact with the fire department when he said we should pull it when he's talking about Building 7, and so that's what they did. They pulled it, which means that they brought it down on purpose because it was damaged. And it's just like people hang their hats when it comes to the Jewish question, and when it comes to like anti-Semitism. People will hang their hat on the stupidest things. And just
one of the things that a very, very good friend and still one of my best friends, a woman, we got into an argument decades ago, and I think this is somewhat of a general complaint about Jews and the Holocaust, is that their people are sick of hearing about it. That the Jews use it as some kind of wedge thing to create sympathy, or I don't really understand it completely. Now, this was someone who, it was a very close friend of mine and still is to this day. I don't know. There's just, to me, very simply put, the Holocaust. There's been many Holocausts in the world, not just Jews. What's particularly interesting about that Holocaust is the industrialization, and it's I don't know. I just don't. And just anybody who denies it with all the evidence, why would anyone care what else they have to say? I mean, to me, that's like that dismisses them as pretty much a human being in my mind. I get very upset.
Agreed. Agreed.
But agreed. Anything they say from there on in, I have no interest in whatsoever, because it just
No, I agree.
Completely agree.
Yeah,
Completely.
I like the idea of because I'm seeing I put up this, this is something that he apparently said, but I would rather have a person on the show and be like, here's what it says that you said. Are those your thoughts? If so, explain them to me.
But that's your job. But that's what you do. So I get it. I don't do that, and here I am doing it anyways because I felt bad that the guy canceled on you. But the reality is that's just a personal thing for me. I get very enraged. Very enraged. Hey,
we're joined by the Oracle herself, Karima Saad is on the show. Karima, how are you?
Hi, I was excited to tune in, and now this is even better because he's not here.
So funny. Half the people hate me right now. Half the people love me. It just literally flipped from what it was like 3 hours ago.
I love. I was reading your tweets today about your predictions about his trial, and it reminds me very much of the Trump thing, where we do have processes, and even Matt Gaetz got off. We have to understand that. We can't just say Matt Gaetz. You may disagree, you may hate the guy, but if the prosecutors don't have what it takes, then
totally. And they made choices about what charges to move in on, how to prepare for it, what to put forward for the court. So that's a process system, and you can't just be throwing contemptible people in jail.
Right.
Look, we can hate him.
Karima? Sorry, Paul. Can you give us an idea, Karima, of what? I don't even know what this is for. Is this for the threatening the premier? What is this for?
Yeah. So he's facing 5 charges. Some in relation to uttering threats, including to Doug Ford. That's kind of the big one. And then when he was going to be, I guess, arrested for this, there was a bit of an incident, and it was an unmarked police car. There is debate about whether the officers themselves were identified as officers, whether they had vests, or it was just dudes who pulled up in front of him, and maybe they pulled guns. He says they did. They say they didn't. But there's discrepancies about that. And so he just kind of sped off, and, they say almost hit one of the cops. He says, no, I drove around. So that's it's a 2-parter. And we're now at the point of closing submissions. So defense counsel, he laid it out and then laid it out again and like said the same thing a couple of times, but he got his point across, and we're back for one more session in court where the Crown will be able to finish his say. But yeah, it all centers on these threats that he made and then possibly trying to run over a cop in escaping from arrest.
Yeah.
But he turned himself in afterwards, and he says that he thought he was being kidnapped or assassinated.
Well, that would be maybe too much cocaine, and he was a little paranoid at the time. Speculation, just speculating.
You know what's funny is that the prosecutor might be like it might be tough for them to disagree with the idea that, well, a lot of people hate him, so I guess he could have thought he was being kidnapped, right? Like,
Yeah.
You know,
I bet.
could have been his dad could have hired the goons that came to collect him. You know, like get him
He has a right to due process, just like any other Canadian citizen does. I hate the guy, but he has a right to due process and a fair trial. And look, I remember when Omar Khadr was awarded millions of dollars, and people went out of their minds about it. And I'm like, hang on a second. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms applies to every Canadian, or it applies to none of us.
Yeah.
And his charter rights were violated. So, same thing. Hate the man. Can't stand Chris Sky. I think he's a scourge on humanity. I think he's a terrible Canadian. I think he's done a lot of harm. But he does have a right to due process and fair and legal representation. And if he gets, not convicted or exonerated or whatever the case may be, I don't even know the full legal terms there. Karimi, you could help me out on that one.
Yeah, acquitted.
Acquitted, thank you. But if he gets acquitted by a juror of his peers, well, that's how the system works.
In this case, he's being tried by judge alone. So
okay.
There's no jury.
No
here,
jury.
Which, may have been like the least boring jury case to be a part of. James, also, I have a message from the chat. They want you to turn your mic up. And thank you, chat, for bringing me here.
Okay, I've turned it up, and I've turned me up to full, so I don't know what else I can do except.
That's it.
Like,
Sorry.
hello?
I just had a message.
Hello?
I'm just a messenger.
Yeah, you're
Hello?
really loud. Really loud.
Yeah, I feel like I'm really loud.
No, it's good now.
Nice.
Just right where you are. Perfect.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You know what? I think it's going through the wrong mic. Hold on a second. Talk amongst yourselves for a second.
Oh yeah. You going through the computer mic or the?
Hell,
No,
it's
it's actually-
a joke.
There's something wrong with my phone.
Yeah.
The
So
blazer he was wearing today, though, it really did look like it shrunk in the wash. And that was a highlight for me because he's already kind of small. And the blazer was like extra small on him.
Do you look like a kid in a private junior high school kind of thing?
Yeah, like it's like, the dance, right?
trying to
This
look
can't be
jacked.
happening at McDonald Hall.
Trying to look super jacked.
I
Is
love
he?
Gordon Corman.
Gordon Corman's awesome. When I found out he was like 14 when he wrote that book, that's when I decided I wanted to be a writer.
Total prodigy. Yes.
Yeah.
What book is that?
This can't be happening at McDonald Hall. And he also wrote How to Eat Fried Worms. Do you remember that one?
I've heard of that
He had
book.
the whole Bruno and Boots series, and then No
Yeah.
Coins, Please. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, I used to read
Must be a
those all the time.
generational thing because I don't know those. I've heard of the one book, but that was it.
And Mordecai
Generational.
Richler was my favorite children's author too when I was young. I met him, by the way, Spenny. You'll like this story. I met Mordecai Richler when I was like 9. And I was in my great-grandmother's neighborhood in Old Montreal. And I could see him. I looked inside a door. It was to a pub. And I could see him sitting on a bar stool like 20 feet away from me. And I only recognized him because of the back of the Jacob Tutu Meets the Hooded Fang book. And I walked up to him. I don't have glasses. It would make this story a lot better. But I walked up to him and I was like, I tugged on his cardigan, and he looked down and he's like, his glasses are over his nose and he's like, yes, right? And I'm like, I just want to know how a person becomes a writer. And he looks me up and down and he says, quote, become a whore to the profession. Now off you go. And I walk outside and I go to my mom, what's a whore? Where did you get that from? Mordecai Richler?
What was that? He wrote Duddy Kravitz, which was great.
One of my favorite books of all time. All time. I love that book.
What's the other one he did? It was a thicker book. It was great.
Barney's version.
Barney's version, which was a great film, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes,
great
I saw
looking
the
film.
film. I can't remember.
The Incomparable It Took.
I'm going
that
to
was
look
good
it
one.
up. You guys
Okay.
talk amongst yourselves.
Yes, thank you. It's going on. It's going around a lot. But yeah, the Omar Khadr
Be
thing.
right back.
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, the Omar Khadr thing, Karima, you'll like this. I think the one what I find interesting, like we just heard Paul say, "I hate Chris Sky, but he deserves due process." The people that hated Omar Khadr, they didn't care about due process at all.
No.
Like his entire story is literally about no due process. I thought I don't know what to think about him as a person because I don't know him, but I don't even care. The guy was put there. What was he? 15?
He was a child. I think he was 14 or 15. Yeah.
How are you
Might
not?
have been
If he was picked up in the Congo by the UN, he would be considered a child soldier, wouldn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? The argument that they hinged the argument on no uniform. That's why he was an enemy combatant because he didn't have a uniform on. It's just like
Saint Urbain's Horseman. Saint Urbain's Horseman was the book.
Oh.
I love that book. I think Saint Urbain's a street.
Yeah, it is. That's the street that my great grandmother's house was on. That's
you
one
go.
of the main streets in Old Montreal.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just want to say, with respects to all this stuff, it's anti-Semitism. It's just racism in general, really, which is, I think, one of the reasons I had such a reaction to Chris being a Holocaust denier. And I'm asking this as a question. It really feels like a lot of the darkest stuff that, progressive people hate, racism and all that stuff seems to be pretty much more normalized now. I don't know if it's social media or maybe normalized is the wrong word, but much more popular, much more, out there in the public with horrible things happening and just people talking like idiots to a point where, it's even infected a political party in the United States, maybe in Canada. I don't know. Does anybody agree with that or feel that? Or is it just this? It's always been this way and we just have more ways to amplify it. I don't know.
Karima?
It's a good question. I tend to agree that it's more prevalent in discourse, and there are more people who, for whatever reason, are just comfortable being open about extremely ignorant views. And I think social media probably has something to do with that. But I think, it's maybe less civility in discourse, but I don't know that things are necessarily objectively better or worse because at the same time, there have been like major strides. And like when my parents came to this country, it was fine to just, use slurs openly and you're fired because of this or you're not hired because of that. And so and now I guess it's just a little bit more, there's at least layers of obscurity there. So overall, my answer is I don't know. But there's aspects that seem worse and then parts that have improved.
I think it's worse because the Trump presidency kind of lifted the veil off of a lot of overt racists that we didn't know about before. But what was different about it is that normally with the if you had a conservative bent and you were a racist, you gave a pass to Israel because you had issues that coincided with Israeli hardline issues. So no, really, like the event. There's books written about how the evangelical extremists in the States aligned with hardcore conservative Israelis like Netanyahu and people like that because they had an ultimate end game goal that was almost identical. Even though quietly the evangelicals were like, well, you're going to have to convert to Catholicism or convert to Christianity or you're fucked in the afterlife. But but they still had these common goals. Whereas when Trump was elected, that veil that we lifted off revealed that many of these people with conservative bents were also fervent anti-Semites as well as just being typical racists. So I think it may seem like it's probably worse. And I think it's just that we lifted the veil. I don't know how much worse it is. They're actively being
I think
recruited.
the plague of racism is in Israel. It's everywhere. It's just it's a cancer on humanity, and it doesn't matter to me if you're don't like blacks or don't like Jews or don't like whoever. Like it's so sad, and I don't know. I don't know either, Karima.
I think people also get emboldened by each other, right? So as you lift a veil, then someone who may have been harboring a particular thought is more comfortable expressing that. And then, and this, I guess, is where the question of platforming comes in, right? If you talk about ideas, does it expose people to them and then they fall down rabbit holes? I'm not really a believer in that particular. It depends on how you talk about something and how you engage with it. Overall, though, I'm very much in the camp of sunlight as a disinfectant.
Yeah, me too.
What I try to do is the only people I don't like are assholes, and they come in every color, every gender, and that's where I try to, But I've talked about this too. That there's certainly a racism that I grew up with in certain aspects of my family that I saw. I think we have to sort of that whole thing that we all are much more comfortable sort of hanging with our own kind. I mean, that's probably a very deep human thing, So I think it's effort
It
to
just doesn't.
realize.
It just doesn't make sense to hate entire groups of people unless they drive BMWs or are gingers. But other than that, like,
I love gingers. Look, I love every color of the rainbow, and I've been fortunate enough to have sampled every color of the rainbow. And let me tell you, a smorgasbord is a great buffet.
Which is the
if
greatest.
this is Casual Friday, that would have been an ejection. Just to let you
The
know.
greatest reason for diversity is
An ejection or an erection?
No, an ejection for sure.
food.
were you
I
saying,
was going to
Penny?
say food is the greatest byproduct, I think, of multiculturalism.
Absolutely. Well, Anthony Bourdain's show exemplified
ginger
that.
dish.
Name what?
Name one ginger dish.
It's not a race, dude. it's
Ginger chicken.
So it's not racist to hate them. Yes. Just kidding. I'm just joking. I just think that it's interesting because they're white, and I'm allowed to hate white people. So it just seems like the fun joke that I go back to. I guess you shouldn't.
This used to be red, eh? This used to be red.
Well, it's the ones
now
with
white.
the blonde eyelashes. I just don't fucking trust them. I don't know what it is. I just don't. But they're white, so it's fine. What was it? Remember Ari from what was that show? The Adrian Grenier's show, Entourage.
Oh, Entourage.
When Ari was like mad at his wife because she slept with that famous chef, and he's like, he's a ginger, a genetic mistake. How could you? It's so funny. It just is like, can't argue with that. No, okay, we shouldn't be racist. And I don't know if I listen. I titled this show because it was Blackballed welcomes Chris Guy to the show. Now it's Blackballed welcomes people who hate Chris Guy to the show. I don't even know.
Hate him.
Hate is a very strong word. Hate's a
It
strong
is
word.
Really strong word.
And I would love to change it, but it's too late now. Also, I didn't really hate Chris Guy until he canceled. Now I don't like
A minute
him.
before the show.
A
See, this
minute.
is why I wanted to have an in-person thing, because you can't suss out of that, right?
Yeah.
Every
If you don't
single
show up for in
virtual-
person, you're a
Every
loon.
single
Yeah.
virtual event that he's done, either there's tech issues or he bails or, it's a disaster. So
I think he just realizes he's going
to the show, so he's watching maybe.
So he realizes he's going to encounter smarter people, and he can't hold a conversation with them because he can't take it over and spew his vile garbage that he always does, the verbal diarrhea that spews forth from his gigantic mouth on a constant and daily basis. We've all seen it online. It's not a secret. We know what he does. And when he comes into a group of people who are going to actually sit here and have a conversation and debate things, and he can't take it over like I just did, he'll run away.
there's this
Are you saying
incredible.
you ran away from this experience?
He did a pile of cocaine after the court case, and he just wasn't feeling up to doing it. Honestly, that's what I think. That's what I think.
If I did a pile of cocaine, that's all I'd want to do was a podcast.
Can I take a masturbation break? Sure, Spanny. It's your third one in 10 minutes, but okay.
Yeah, 10 minutes on coke. Are you kidding? More like 4 days.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
if he was here and you asked him about and I was doing the show, it's so weird because I called you to say I didn't want to do the show, and now I'm here and he's not here. But anyways, I would have just asked him about the Holocaust, and if he started, quibbling about numbers, good. I want to talk to him about it. I talked to him about the films. I talked to him about, like what. So so it's not a big deal because 6 million didn't die. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
You know, I'd like to know what he would say to that. But
Well, it was only 2 million. Oh, right. So that's not significant,
no,
right? It's like
it's
But it
just,
wasn't.
yeah. 6 million, 10 million, 20 million. A group of people were targeted and
it's
they
the
tried to eliminate
Jews
them.
control everything. And
Yeah,
I'll tell
yeah.
you, if the Jews control show business, why am I on this show?
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Touche.
it's insane.
I could help you out with that. Just kidding. Yeah, no, you know what? Listen, I tried to do it. Maybe there's probably a lesson in here somewhere, but it's only directed towards Chris Guy. Like I'm not going to invite him on anymore. There was another person. I won't say who this person was because I don't feel like putting anyone on blast. She could be a very lovely person, but she canceled like literally seconds before we were supposed to go on air and did it in a way where she was like, I'm just not feeling up to it. Right. And then, I said to her the next day, I was like, you want to do you want to reschedule? And she actually said, well, to be honest, I was looking at the rankings and my show's ranked so much higher than yours. And I was like, and I was just like, I can't fucking believe you said that. So I just was like, fuck this person, right? And then 3 months later, my show's like 28th and hers is like 100th or something. And by the way, the rankings don't mean shit to me. They always flop. Yeah. They go up and down so quickly, it doesn't matter. But then she contacted me and was like, I was wondering if maybe I could go on your show. And I'm like, nah. I don't think so. Like I know what you're made of now because you said it out loud.
That would be karma, right? I don't believe in karma, but that's kind of what
I wanted to be the bigger person and be like, but you know what? I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself to not go like this while on air. You canceled, right? And then you want to do the show because and then you say the rankings are, nah, fuck off. Like, I would have just blown it like that, but I don't know. I think it's rude when people do stuff like that. And when Chris Sky does it, it's like, it doesn't bother me as much as when someone that I think I respect does it. Because I was saying to Ashley today, I don't know, Ashley, if she's still in the comments, but Ashley, I was like, I just have a feeling that he's going to bail or there's going to be a tech issue seconds before we go on. And sure enough, he bails.
That was my first thought when I saw your tweet this morning.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Does anyone here think he's watching now?
Maybe. Who knows?
If he's watching,
maybe he'll watch it later.
If he's watching and he's got a pair of stones, he's got the link. He can click it and he can come on and I'll make sure that.
I only say that because one of the criticisms of the stuff that Karima covers is that they really want attention. That it's more about attention than any real grievance or tangible grievance. And but I can't hold that against them because that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, we all want attention. I want attention.
Yeah. So, but I don't know, just something to think about. Not that it
well, the day after the greeting card holiday, we all want a little attention, don't we?
Yeah. It means nothing to me. The one thing about my wife is that was one thing we agreed upon from the very beginning was our disdain for Valentine's Day. Like if you have to like take one day out of the year and make that day and make your partner feel special, then you're probably not in a very good relationship. Like you probably, like I want my significant other to feel special at least 2 days out of the year, not one, right? Like
I think the last time I did anything for Valentine's Day, I was 14. I'm not kidding.
It's a little kid holiday, isn't it?
It really is. I think I was 15 or 16 and I kind of went, this is stupid. And it was a woman who pointed it out to me. Dude, it's just an excuse to sell chocolates, candies, and expensive restaurant meals. It's bullshit. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
From my Jewish perspective, you've lost a lot of potential sponsors for this show. The chocolate industry. You got the car.
Listen. Nestle, I have it on good authority. Nestle made 90% of their confectionery sales on Halloween. It's not even. They're not even a.
Really?
They're not even. Yep, 90% of all confectionery sales made on Halloween. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite holiday. But I did just get now like kind of a warm nostalgic feeling. Do you remember having that like Valentine's Day envelope taped to your desk? and you had to like
Yeah.
write these little
Count
like
them and-
Valentines out and give them to people. And stuff. You never did that? Spenny?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
Back in
great.
like grade school, like second, third grade sort of thing.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was
wonderful.
I was a privileged kid who went to some Protestant not Catholic Protestant private school, and they were very negative on emotions. So I don't.
Wait,
think that's
that's what WASPs are, though, sir. That's what we do. We do that very well. Except I'm a Catholic WASP. Go figure. But I went to military. Like I lived on military bases as a kid, so I went to schools on base. So we did all that stuff because we were all poor, but we were all in the exact same demograph, right, for the most part, because we were all junior ranks kids, or non-commissioned officers, or less than. So there was no big gap between what my dad earned and what my friend's dad earned. They were all basically level playing fields. So. We all
Valentine's Day
got to do
does
that.
make the best memes, though. I saw a meme today where it was like, big shout out to the couples who paid $800 a night to go to a hotel and have sex in the same two positions they have at home. It's like, yeah.
In the city they live in.
Greg Valentine. Karima, you're a wrestling fan. The Greg Valentine. There's always memes Valentine's Day with Greg and his father, Johnny Valentine, the wrestler.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Greg the
wrestler.
Hammer Valentine.
Oh yes, yeah, a little before my
Okay.
time, but I'm obviously familiar with him.
Hey,
so.
Spenny, do you and Karima, have you ever talked wrestling? Because both of you are,
No,
no?
That's one
I-
of
in
my
fact,
favorite
I don't
episodes
know
of Kenny and Sunny, where you guys do like.
It's mine. It is mine because I cut myself, which I bladed or whatever the term.
Yeah.
Which was a labor
I'm going to
of love.
Montreal this weekend. Actually, I'm so stoked. Tomorrow, I'm seeing The Undertaker do a one-man show, and then Saturday is the Elimination Chamber, and then Friday is SmackDown, and then Monday is Raw.
Do you know RJ City? Are you familiar with that guy? He's AEW. He's the most. When I had a podcast before YouTube canceled me, I had him on. You got to look him up. He's the strangest bird. He's a professional wrestler, but he kind of has this talk show on AEW. But he's obsessed with old nostalgic Hollywood from like the 40s and 30s, like
Okay.
Ethel Merman, and he talks to some of these wrestlers are they're athletes, they're jocks, they're not, and he brings up like references that James might know or I might know. It's just, anyways, forget it. If you don't know him, forget I mentioned it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm here. I didn't mean to.
I'm gonna look him up now. That's fun. I'm a Jericho.
I refuse to belong to any club that would have me as a member.
I'm trying to think of a good Undertaker joke for the
It's the worst
one-man
question
show.
mark I've ever heard. What?
I'm trying to think of a good Undertaker joke for like a one-man show with the Undertaker. Like, you better, like, I don't know. I can't even think. There's so many jokes that I can't think of right now, but like,
He killed?
yeah, he killed, or like, we're all going to have to sit up for that. And doing, like, because that's what he does. He sits
I
up.
hope it's very honest, because what I know about the Undertaker. What's his real name?
Mark with a C.
Mark. Okay, whatever. So
Mark C.
Mark. Yeah, that he was the one that stayed loyal to Vince when
Yes, the
everybody
whole
split.
time.
Yeah, and boy, did he ever, was rewarded for his loyalty. I think, anyways.
Huh. I didn't
Well,
know that.
isn't he like almost 7 feet tall, if memory serves? He's like a really big
Well,
dude, isn't he?
I don't think he's 7 feet, but he's probably 6'8", 6'9".
He might be like billed at
I
7.
think
Pretty big.
Andre the Giant.
I
Andre the
never
Giant
liked
was like
this gimmick.
7'1".
I never liked the gimmick. I don't like those overly crazy gimmicks, but you can't argue with success. I mean, it's huge. I never liked Hulk Hogan. I could go tell you who I liked and who I didn't like. I don't know if this is the time or place for
Yeah,
it, but
dude. It's a Chris Guy show. Of course, we should talk about who we like as wrestlers and not talk about Chris
Chris
Guy.
Guy
That'd
would be
great.
Enzo Amore, 100%. I actually tried to get a cameo of
Enzo
Amore.
Amore.
Or he'd be
like
ravishing
roasting
Rick
him?
Rude's bastard.
What's that?
So a buddy of mine who was a professional wrestler, he wrestled in the WCW. So he'd go down to Florida for 4 months, 2 or 3 months, sometimes 4 months, and work every 3 or 4 days. He'd do like jobs, little jobs, and he'd earn enough money to just live like a king for the rest of the year. He became friends because he got on the circuit, and he was good buddies with Jake the Snake, Brutus the Barber, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Like he knew all those guys.
Okay, so here's my ultimate favorites. I've got a heel and my favorite baby
Mankind.
face.
My-
Do you care what order?
Nope.
Okay, my
No.
favorite baby face of all time was the great Bobo Brazil.
Wow. Look how old
From
school
St.
that
Louis,
is.
Missouri.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite wrestler of all time was the original Sheik, Eddie Fairhat.
Oh my God.
He's not even a sheik.
No, he was
There
American.
was a camel
fully
in his
American.
trunk. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he had blonde hair and blue eyes.
I dated a girl with a camel in her
He's-
trunk, but that's
He's
totally
supposed to be from Syria. He was actually Lebanese. His parents
Oh.
were, and he was a promoter. But anyways, I digress.
I went to high school with a wrestler, Andrew Martin, who was better known as Test. Do you remember Test?
Oh, that's a
Sounds familiar.
tragic end, though.
Yeah, he died probably about 10 years ago now, I think. He died of an accidental painkiller overdose, and it made me research a little bit more into, like, we get it, it's fake, but Jesus Christ, these athletes go through so much like pain and heartache, and they work them to like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that McMahon, maybe he has, and we just don't know because of non-disclosure agreements. But I'm so surprised that these leagues haven't been sued over and over again by athletes who have been just like put through the ringer. I mean, I guess they might sign a good waiver or whatever that protects the company, but like the amount of OxyContin abuse and things like that. Who was that wrestler? Sorry, I forget his name. I'm bad at this. That like killed his wife and kids.
Chris Benoit.
Chris Benoit.
Yeah, like
They're now a lot more stringent about like the testing, and if it's like a 3-strike rule.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're a lot more diligent about that. And one thing that I learned is, I think they have, as part of their like independent contracts, like they have basically unlimited access to rehab. So that's like one semi okay thing that Vince has done. Just on the subject of the Iron Sheik, though, the current one, his Twitter account is amazing.
oh, it's so good.
Yeah, one of the top.
I
So
know,
funny.
I know the guys that run it, the twins. Do you know the Megan boys?
Wait, he doesn't do it himself?
Yeah, he probably couldn't do it himself, but they take what he says and they
Right. Yeah.
It's fake.
It's not fake. No,
Wrestling's fake.
Iron Sheik.
Wrestling's
you should
so
speak.
fake,
They
even
made
the
the
Twitter
documentary about him. These are some friends of mine, and
That's so
wrestling
cool.
fanatics and promoters. Yeah, well, he was on Kenny versus Spence. Well, you would know that if you saw that episode. Great stuff. Wrestling to me, it was my first into what is entertainment. I didn't know it at the time. I was too young. It was the kayfabe before they went public with what it is. And I love it. I respect wrestlers. I think it's fun. I can't believe people say, "How can you watch that? It's fake." Like, you mean like movies and television shows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's
just live
choreographed.
theater. It's live theater.
Well, the thing is, when they go, it's fake. There's nothing fake about a 300-pound man jumping off a top rope, landing on it. It's choreographed.
Okay.
It's organized, but what he just did happened.
I got to tell you though, the one thing that I don't really understand about wrestling is that the pile drivers look real. Off the top rope with the elbow fucking looks awesome. These motherfuckers can't kick or punch fake like to save their lives. Like what the fuck?
I disagree. If you watch Jerry Lawler, he probably took the best punch of anybody in terms of making it look real. But for me, it's not. That's the athleticism part of wrestling, which is my least favorite part of wrestling. It's not the same anymore as when I loved it. But I love the showbiz, the comedy, the outrageous characters. I mean, that's what I like. It's become, for me personally, but I still love it, way too athletic and
The Mankind documentary was
Mick Foley. Yeah.
Oh, Nick Foley. Like, dude, that guy, like the injuries, did you see when they showed him as a graph and all the injuries that he's had? And you're just like,
He's fucked.
he's super nice.
Not
I
being
kind of
hunted.
know him. I've hung out with him. He's the nicest, smartest guy you'd ever want to meet. I think he was addicted to pain, personally. It's
Yeah.
what he did. I think there's an addiction to that kind of crazy,
but it doesn't make sense if you're not naked. Sorry.
That was an admission. You got to remember something about wrestling,
Greco-Roman wrestling, not Greco.
that's Greco. The theatrics of wrestling. You know where James Brown, when he'd drop to his knees and they'd bring out and they'd put the cape on him. You know where he got that from?
No,
Wrestling. Gorgeous George.
Gorgeous George, yeah.
Really?
And if you remember Bugs Bunny cartoons, when Bugs Bunny was in the wrestling ring and they had, I forget the name of the character, but he had blonde hair and the cape, that was based on Gorgeous George, who was a real wrestler.
He was the first, they called him Fancy Boy, the gay gimmick. Adorable Adrian Street was amazing. He did a lot of good things with that gimmick. Vince gave it to Adonis because he didn't like him. Yeah. So he made him be Adorable Adrian, which was so funny. But that's what I like. I've said it to wrestlers. I've hung out with wrestlers, Jake the Snake, a bunch of them. And I tell them, I go, I think it's one of the worst art forms in the world. And I love it because of that. For no other reason. It's so dumb and so fun. I absolutely adore it. But I got to go. I really do. I'm sorry.
That's great to see you, brother.
Thank you for doing this, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bud.
Take care, brother.
I actually have to go too. But thank you for bringing me in, and thank you, chat, for making this happen.
Yes. Thank you, chat.
Good to see you, Karima.
Okay, I will update you all about the Undertaker and my various events. Take care.
Good.
Bye, see you. Bye.
All right, Mr. Paul. Tomorrow. I want to talk about tomorrow because now that you're here, I have Billy Vera,
an artist. I'm looking forward to this show, bro, because that guy, what a voice, what a career, and
I gotta do this deep dive with him because I'm gonna talk about this tomorrow. The first time I ever heard the song At This Moment, I was 10 years old, and I was getting over. It seems like all my stories start like this, but I was a romantic at a very young age. Like I was crying over girls when I was 5. Okay, and it wasn't healthy. Trust me, it's still with me. Some of the bad habits that I picked up, but But the idea of remembering when Jeanette Bradley, if she's watching, hi, but I think I broke up with her and regretted it. I think that was the scenario. Anyways, so it was a Thursday, what do I do on Thursdays when I'm 10 years old? Watch The Cosby Show because
it was on Family Ties.
I didn't know he was the world's most prolific rapist until many years later.
It was Family Ties, though. It was on Family Ties.
It was, no, but listen, Bill Cosby at 8 o'clock, Family Ties at 8:30.
Okay.
That's what I thought for the night. And then Family Ties comes on and he's sorting shit out with his girlfriend, APK, Alex P. Keaton. And all of a sudden this song comes on and I'm just like, I don't even know if I was paying attention, but all I remember is this. What did you say? And I was like, and then he started saying, and then he kissed her and then she took off. They were dancing or something. And I was like, Jeanette Bradley. Like I was just so upset. This song, I don't know, there's songs that are formulated and constructed in a way that is literally designed to make you sad. Mm-hmm. And that song is certainly one of them. And I can't believe, I don't even, you know how I landed him as a guest? I messaged him on Facebook.
Really?
Asked him if he wanted to be a guest. And within seconds, he was like, yeah, no problem. It was like,
nice.
You're a 4-time Grammy nominee and a 1-time Grammy award winner. And you're saying yes to this guy. You don't even know. I couldn't tell if that was just an example of how nice he is or how, it's I got nothing better to do. You know what I mean? But I doubt it's the second one. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with myself. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to I'll figure it out. I haven't done the deep dive yet. I'll do the deep dive. I'll figure it out. But I mean, it's going to be weird talking to somebody who one day sat down, had an idea for a song, wrote the lyrics, figured out the piano, I guess, with a friend or whoever, and then sang it, causing a boy to cry in 1986, who then 37 years later interviews the guy that made him cry as a 10-year-old. I don't know. My life is weird sometimes, and I look at it like that. He's the author of my sadness when I was 10.
That's kind of trippy and full circle in a weird way, right?
Yeah, because I'm going through something right now. I'm always sad, and here he is. I hope he drops another single, and off myself on the show. That would be good
Don't
content.
don't do that. Don't do that.
It'd still be good content.
Well,
Put the network on the map, baby.
I remember the first time I heard the song. I was watching Family Ties, like you were, and I was like, it was literally when that first note. And it's like the needle across the record when you walk into, that scene in a movie. You walk in, the needle across the record, everybody turns and looks, and that's what it was. We all sort of went, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
And we were enraptured by that song, and it became a massive hit, like right away.
Twice. It became a hit twice.
True,
because of the Family Ties thing. Yeah.
And the weird thing was the Family Ties thing really propelled it into the stratosphere, but they were able to get a hold of it because, as it turned out, the music director had no budget to work with at the time. And licensing then wasn't what it was now. So he was able to license the song for next to nothing, comparatively speaking. I mean, it might have been more money than I've earned in the last 2 years, right? Yeah. But at the time, it was not a considerable amount of money for a program that was like number 2 or 3 in the ratings when you would have 40 or 50 million people watch it. And you got to remember now, if you get 1 or 2 million people watching a show, those are blockbusters. And they'll produce a show like what was the Game of Thrones? I don't know what they spent per episode, and they would get 2 or 3 million people maximum, which was a huge audience by today's standards. You gotta question how much money were they making back then on that show.
Oh, dude,
right?
like when the music industry put out CDs, they were just killing it.
Oh yeah,
CDs were nothing. So I want to do my before we go. I want to do play the promo for tomorrow's show because I don't even care if I get dinged because I usually put a hip hop beat behind it, but this time I did something a little bit different.
Cool.
It's the karaoke version.
I love it.
All right, that's enough of that. Okay, yeah. So that's tomorrow night.
Awesome.
I can't wait. It's going to be fun. Big thanks to Chris Sky for not showing up tonight because if he didn't show up, I wouldn't have had this great conversation with all my actual friends.
Good times.
Or some of my actual friends. And Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you,
Thank
Spenny,
you.
for joining us as well. I am going to now go into my folder to get my intro thing, which I just removed for that other thing that I put up. And yeah, Paul, we'll see you on Casual Friday, maybe.
Yes, sir. I'll be by. Take care.
All right, buddy. We'll
Bye.
talk soon. And thank you, everyone in chat, for joining. I really appreciate it. I don't know what this means, but you guys in the chats can just figure all that shit out for yourself. And we'll see you next time on Blackballed.
Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Black.